everybody, welcome back to What the Film. I'm your host, Logan Thompson, joined, as always, by...
Ethan Kaufman. Hey, hi, hello, everybody.
Before we get into the movie tournament that I know you are all here for, it's our final quarter of the bracket. It's a very fun round, very competitive. We're going to just talk about some more recent stuff going on. I also just want to preface that, as you can see, if you're watching this as a video... We are not there.
Yeah.
You're looking at the thumbnail, essentially. You can click on the timestamp right now that is on the video to get to the movie tournament where there will then be video. But there is no video for this beginning portion of the podcast. Just want to throw that out there.
Yes.
So anyways, just to talk about some recent stuff, we got Bob Iger looking for a new successor.
He should look at the Ithaca pool, his good old stomping grounds where we are.
You know, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that he should just make the CEO of Disney like a 23-year-old graduate.
No, it should be me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to...
I mean, I would definitely know how to manage Disney better than he ever could. So,
what would you do as the Disney CEO?
I would immediately liquidate all of our assets and just dissolve Disney as the media empire we know it as, because it's basically a monopoly at this point, and like it shouldn't be. Give other companies a chance. What about you? What would you do with Disney?
I would sell to Apple.
Fair.
I'd sell for billions.
Yes.
I would make so much money. I would become the CEO of Disney for like 5 days.
Yeah.
And
Just however long it takes to kind of...
to get it going.
Right.
Because I know that Apple wants Disney.
They do.
I know that they do.
Yeah.
If Disney went to them, they were like, we want you to buy us. They'll be like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're going to buy you. And then they'll buy them. And then that'll be that. And then Apple is a monopoly.
I feel like Bob Iger's probably not going to hire us now.
Yeah. No, I do agree. Yeah. Maybe not the best decisions. But you know what? As long as whoever he gets to be like the new CEO is not as bad as Bob Chapek,
yeah,
I'd say that it's a success.
To where he like left and then came back so that he could save it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And for a while, it didn't look like he would save it. But now, after this summer, it's like, oh my God, he did kind of save it.
Yeah.
Look at him go. Good job, Bob. Proud of you. In other words, the Sonic 3 trailer dropped. Have you seen this trailer?
I have not. I have also not seen Sonic 2. I've heard decent things. I have not gotten around to it yet. Yeah.
Well, I did see this trailer. As a matter of fact, I think I watched it like 3 times.
So I take it you liked this trailer.
I thought it was a pretty good trailer.
Okay.
But the biggest thing with this trailer is that the main antagonist of this film, Shadow, is being voiced by the one and only Keanu Reeves.
I can get down with this.
I'm very down with this.
Yes.
I'm honestly so excited. I'm pretty sure Disney wanted to bring him on for the Acolyte in like as like the Master Soul role played by the guy from Squid Game, and he couldn't do it because of scheduling conflicts.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Sonic 3 was the schedule conflict.
All right.
So good job, Keanu. You're turning down the Acolyte for Sonic 3. You got your priorities in order.
For sure.
Yeah. That's the news this week.
I can't guarantee you I'm going to watch Sonic 3, but I will watch at the very least clips of Keanu Reeves because I will watch anything that he is a part of.
I feel like you'll end up watching Sonic 3.
I mean, if you try to make me, maybe. We'll see. We're not going to be here, though, at school.
No,
so, like,
it's going to be like a Christmas movie. I will.
Yeah.
But I feel like I forced you to watch quite a few movies over the summer.
A few. I held strong. Like, I never saw Horizon. That was one you were pushing for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you saw Bad Boys.
You got Bad Boys out of me.
I got Bad Boys out of you. Didn't you see Fly Me to the Moon, or did you
No.
not see? Okay, you didn't see Fly Me to the Moon.
I think it was just Bad Boys.
Was that really it?
I think so.
I feel like there was something else.
I don't know. You pushed a lot.
I did push a lot.
I didn't take to most of it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try pushing Sonic 3.
We'll see. We'll see if that goes down easily.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, in other words, there is the box office that happened this weekend. dominating the box office was Deadpool and Wolverine, that climbed back to the number 1 spot, overtaking Alien Romulus. So yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine made 18.3 million, Romulus made 18.4. But there are 2 new notable movies here on the box office. First, I want to mention a movie that Ethan and I have not seen, The Crow.
The Crow.
Remake of the 1990s classic where the star of the film tragically passed away on set due to a malfunction with a prop gun. So, kind of interesting stuff. Maybe this kind of movie that you wouldn't want to remake because that's not the kind of iconography that you can just recreate.
They tried anyway.
They did with Bill Skarsgård.
Yay.
And he's just kind of being Bill Skarsgård from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And I mean, the action looks like it might be interesting.
Maybe.
But that's kind of about it.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie, bombed, had a pretty big budget, and then made a whopping $4,650,000. And that's rounding up slightly.
Yes.
So
another hit tier round 2 auction performance this month.
Yeah, and that's a movie that I had.
Yeah.
So I'm not feeling too great.
No, you wouldn't be.
I think I might lose.
You might lose.
Like, you might sweep me again.
I'm not going to sweep you because you will beat me if we do round 3, but I'd just like to not get there.
I just feel like we didn't do round 3.
We haven't done round 3 yet.
Because you've just been sweeping me.
Right. I feel like you're narrowly going to beat me in the audience rating, and then we'll then have to go to the Instagram poll.
How's it going so far?
I haven't updated the audience ratings in 5 days.
Okay.
I'm behind you currently, but I have fewer films that have been released so far. So I think right now it looks like you're going to slightly win, but it's not over.
What are the films that you're waiting on?
Currently waiting on Afraid and Reagan. Those are the 2. And then The Deliverance still doesn't have a Letterboxd score out. So we'll see what that looks like.
One looks like it's going to be pretty
Looks
low.
like it's not going to be great.
Yeah.
I think I'm definitely beating you in box office.
Yes.
Like I'm pretty much sweeping you there.
Yes, you're destroying me.
All it takes is like just you slightly winning out in audience rating for you to then probably go on and win the auction.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen.
You know what? I kind of figured that you were beating me at this point in the box office. In Letterboxd rating. So I'm glad that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And that I'm not doing as poorly there as I thought I was.
Out of the movies that have come out so far that have ratings, I have a better like rating per movie if you were to average them all. But also like I really don't have anything too great still to look forward to lean back on.
Because essentially you had 2 good movies, Trap and Blink Twice,
right,
in terms of ratings for August like standards. Not saying that like if you put these in July,
Trap's at a 2.9 on Letterboxd.
Yeah, but for August that's pretty good.
Yeah,
I would say. And then what's your other movie?
Blink Twice.
I thought you had one. Did we only do 10?
We did. We had 12 total. The Instigators.
Yes, you had the Instigators, but that's also like a 3-ish.
Yeah, it's
movie,
a 2.8.
Right?
Last
2.8.
Last
okay.
I updated it.
Okay.
Yeah,
so just fine. Like average for August.
If everything on Letterboxd or IMDb was like 0.2, 0.3 higher, I think I take it. But right now, I don't know.
Okay,
we'll see.
I guess we'll find out. I mean, we do have a very fun auction coming up next week.
Yes,
I think September is going to be a huge.
I agree.
Just fun time.
Yes.
Wonder how much we're going to put down for Megalopolis.
I'm going to put down all of my money for Megalopolis.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Blink Twice for a couple of minutes and then move on to the tournament.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the movie?
I really liked it. And it was interesting. I'm forgetting like all of the movies that have been named on Letterboxd reviews as like kind of contemporary comparisons to it. I know Don't Worry Darling was thrown around a lot, which after you watch the movie will make so much sense.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, it's a vibe until it's not. That was pretty much my review.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a thriller adjacent hangout movie up until the last third. And I think the majority of it before that point, it's a little slow. I don't think a lot of the humor works. I think it's very visually bold. I think Zoe Kravitz, like right out of the gate, has established herself as a very solid director.
Yeah.
But I think it takes until those last like 30, 35 minutes for it to really come into its own. Once like the main twist of the movie is revealed and you kind of then know what the movie actually is, I think that is when it's at its best. I think the dramatic tension kind of comes to a height very effectively. I think most of the performances that prior to that point had just been like pretty serviceable, okay. I think you have multiple standouts. There's that one scene of Channing Tatum near the end where he's just yelling, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, that was awesome.
That scene was awesome.
Such a good scene.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it was like really the big standout by the end of this film to me was Adria Arjona.
I agree.
And what was wild is that for 2/3 of this movie, she was kind of a nothing character.
Yeah.
Who had a couple of like intimidating scenes, but then just all of the sudden, out of nowhere, becomes this integral like sidekick type of character and is just awesome. And, you know, sorry for the profanity, but badass.
Yeah.
And I love seeing her channel kind of that hitman energy.
Yes.
But like in the sense that not necessarily in a sexy way, like sometimes yes, but more in that unpredictable way where you just don't necessarily know where her character is going to go. And I really appreciated that. I just think she's great.
Agreed. I think, again, it suffers for me just because so much of it, and it is in service of the third act. I don't think the third act works without those first 2/3 leading up to it. Mm-hmm. I do think it takes too long to get going and doesn't do enough with that first hour to really get me hooked. But even if you aren't particularly hooked, which I wasn't, you're still sitting there for an hour with these characters at this location. So once the plot really does get going after a while, you are in. And so I do think at the end of the day, I came out really liking it. Maybe it's just because the ending left a better taste in my mouth than what came before it. But I did ultimately, I don't know if having a good time with it is what I would say. But like... I mean, there's some fun moments.
The movie wanted you to have a good time with it, though. Yeah. So I feel like you can say
the Beyonce needle drop. Yeah. Like that's all fun.
Like it did have a lot of just genuinely iconic moments.
Yeah.
And really leaned into that. I really would not be surprised if this became like a cult classic type of film.
Yeah.
One day. For me, I came out of it with a very similar perspective to you. I was like, oh my God, I really liked that. I thought it was great. But then it sat with me a little longer.
Really?
And it's not that I didn't like it when it sat with me, but I just didn't like it as much. I ended up giving it 3 rather than 3.5,
okay.
Which is what I was going to give it.
Okay.
And for me, it was just that this movie didn't really say much. It's a film that I think makes this big effort around a very just obvious message, and it doesn't do anything all too interesting with that message. And it's the kind of message that I feel like we've seen a lot before. Mm-hmm. And it has its own Barbie monologue at one point too.
A little bit.
And I was just kind of like, it's a movie that felt like it was just borrowing a lot from other films in a very obvious way.
Okay.
Not in like a Tarantino way where you're going back to films made decades ago, like a movie that is borrowing from films that were made in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And I guess Get Out actually wasn't made in the past 5 years, but that's another film that I felt like this movie borrowed a lot from.
I feel like for me, it harkened back very heavily to like that brief stint in 2022 when we were getting like a new Eat the Rich movie every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy a good Eat the Rich movie, but I do just wish that this film did more with its message. And despite like how interesting the story and all of that was to me, and just like the scares, it hasn't like, there's nothing that it left me to think about.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. So you've gone down on it though.
Not really down.
All right.
I agree with pretty much everything that you said. I don't disagree. Like, I think that it's a great film. I would totally rewatch it with somebody.
Yeah.
It's a good time, but it just doesn't leave you with anything to think about. And I wish it did.
Fair.
And I am very excited to see what Zoe Kravitz does next.
Yeah.
Because I do think that it's a huge tendency of people to borrow very heavily from their inspirations in their first film, but slowly they find their own style as they keep making movies. So I'm excited to see Zoe Kravitz really define herself as a filmmaker with the more movies that she makes, because she obviously has the talent.
Yeah. I think she's someone who has like very good visual flair right out of the gate. Obviously, her dad is Lenny Kravitz, so the music supervision is going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like saying this and agreeing with you because I do feel it diminishes the movie a little bit. But my first reaction, like right out of the theater, was I'm just very excited to see what she does after this.
Yeah.
And that is not to say I didn't like this. I just think it has very, very in line with like first features. It has those flaws. And so there were parts of it that were really good. There were parts of it that could have used maybe a little more work. But I'm excited to see where she takes her directing career.
Exactly. But overall, go and see this movie.
Yeah.
It's a fun time. I mean, people are saying that it really underperformed with 7.3 million at the box office.
I don't think so.
I don't see that as an underperformance. I think like that's pretty in line with at least what I expected this movie to do.
Yeah.
It's made by a first-time director, Channing Tatum. It's kind of been shown in the past few years that Channing Tatum doesn't necessarily have that much star power on his own.
Yeah.
And this movie, I think, was advertised in a way expecting that he did. But I think that his star power is only for people like us that are just cinephiles.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I hope you all enjoy our movie tournament.
Things get heated.
Things do get
Things
very
always
heated.
get heated.
They always get heated. I mean, I'm feeling all right.
You're feeling all right?
I guess that's all I can say. I mean, it's already happened as we're recording this. It happened like a week ago.
Yes.
But it was good. Good times. And Sweet 16 in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Stay tuned for that. Not next week, not the following week, but then the week after that.
We're keeping you waiting, guys.
We are keeping you waiting. We have some ideas that we wanted to fulfill.
Oh, yeah.
And we're doing that between now and the Sweet 16.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Anyways, enjoy this final quarter, and we'll see you all next Thursday.
We'll catch you on the flip side.
September movie auction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here we are, back for the final quarter of our bracket here for the 2010s movie tournament. Before we move on to the Sweet 16 in a couple of weeks, this is our Interstellar quarter. But before we begin, I think we wanted to just do a bit of a recap, like a closer recap of last round, because of some audio issues. In case you watched last round and clicked off for those audio issues, we're going to do a bit more of an in-depth recap on every matchup to really catch you all up. All right, so we're going to go through this as quick as possible. Whiplash 3-0's Detective Pikachu. John Wick loses 1-2 to Black Panther. Nightcrawler loses 0-3 to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, making Nightcrawler the first higher seed to get 3-0'd by a lower seed in our bracket. Does it happen again on this quarter of the bracket? Possibly does. Logan loses 1-2 to Moneyball. Prisoners 2-1's Wreck-It Ralph, because I voted Wreck-It Ralph. Baby Driver 2-1's The Master. Wolf of Wall Street 3-0's Frozen. Manchester by the Sea 3-0's Quiet Place. Get Out 3-0's Kung Fu Panda 2. Paddington 2 2-1 beats Before Midnight, and Ethan was really salty about that one. Hereditary 3-0's The Tree of Life. Kind of surprised by that, like a 3-0 for that, but it was. Perks of Being a Wallflower 2-1's It. I was salty about that one. Black Swan 3-0's Despicable Me. How to Train Your Dragon 2-1's Ford v Ferrari. Jojo Rabbit loses 1-2 to Climax, and Brendan was salty about that one. Drive loses 0-3 to Skyfall, making Drive the second ever movie to get 0-3'd in an upset. So there we go. Happens twice in one round of the quarter. Whiplash proceeds to dominate Black Panther. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes beats Moneyball, and I was devastated by that
I'm
one.
so sorry about that
Beat it
one
2-1.
still.
Ethan's still apologizing to me about it. That's how sad it was. Prisoners beats Baby Driver 3-0. Wolf of Wall Street beats Manchester by the Sea 2-1. Get Out beats Paddington 2 3-0. Wasn't even a conversation, which is sad for Paddington 2 because it's a great movie, but Get Out is Get Out. Hereditary 3-0's Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I was happy because it annoyed Ethan a little bit, even though he still voted against
buddy.
Perks of Being a Wallflower. Black Swan beats How to Train a Dragon 2-1, and that sucked for me. But then I got to break Ethan's heart by taking Climax out with Skyfall, which won 2-1 over Climax. Yeah, thank you, Brendan.
You're welcome.
Whiplash beats Dawn of the Planet of the Apes 3-0 to advance to the Sweet 16, and up against Whiplash is none other than the number 4 seed, Prisoners, which beats Wolf of Wall Street 2-1. Very unfortunate. Wolf of Wall Street should have been there, but no. You guys are all Prisoners. Prisoners. Yeah, Prisoners is the best movie ever. Prisoners. Ah! Get Out beat Hereditary 3-0. That wasn't even a conversation. I was expecting you guys, or at least Ethan, to be big on Hereditary, but I was wrong. And then Black Swan beats Skyfall. So what ends up happening is something that Ethan is very proud of, which is that the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds all advance to the Sweet 16 together. So Whiplash, the 1 seed, is facing off against against Prisoners. I almost said Poor Things. Is facing off against Prisoners, the 4 seed. Get Out, the 2 seed, is facing Black Swan, the 3 seed. And now we advance to the final quarter of the bracket, one that I think might be our strongest quarter yet.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly. So how are we feeling about diving right into it after that recap? All right.
Do it.
Interstellar versus 32. Number 1 Interstellar versus 32 Love, Simon. Does it clear?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I would say I like Love, Simon a lot more, I think, than all the other 32 seeds.
Yeah, me too.
But it still gets cleared, I think.
Yeah. And personally, I have a bit of a connection with Love, Simon. It's like the movie that I watched, and then after it, I was like, I think I'm queer. And then I realized slowly as my life went on that I was. So thank you, Love, Simon. You will forever mean something to me for that. And
that's great.
Yeah, my grandma took me to see that one. Good times. All right. Next up, more of a competitive matchup. 16 Roma against 17 Spotlight. Who wants to kick this one off? I'm assuming it's not a clear.
Yeah, this is a bit of a tough one. I love both of these movies, and they're both a Best Picture winner versus a movie that was very close to winning Best Picture or was highly predicted to win that year.
Won Best Picture.
Yeah, a movie that should have won Best Picture, Roma. And I think...
But Green Book.
Unfortunately, Green Book beat Roma that year. That was not the best year for the Oscars, maybe.
No.
And I love Spotlight. I think it's a fantastic drama that does a really good job telling a really serious story and going over some really serious subject matter in a really great way. It's it balances a great ensemble cast, especially Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams, and Mark Ruffalo are all really, really good in this. And I think the acting and the story in Spotlight slightly edges it out for me, because I think it's better here than Roma, which is still really, really great. It's a beautiful looking movie, like one of the best looking movies of the decade, and so many great camera work, a really heartfelt story, but I think Spotlight is more compelling.
Fair enough. All right. What do you think, Ethan?
Here's what I think. I agree with basically everything Brendan said. I think Roma is definitely like one of the best looking movies of the entire decade. It is shot so beautifully. And I think the story too is really touching and really interesting. And it took a while for me to get invested in it. I would say like the first hour, I wasn't feeling it that much. And I was more just connecting with it on a visual, like an audio visual level. But like Cuarón's direction from start to finish is spectacular. Spotlight is a really great drama. I think is probably like my favorite journalism movie, which is like a fun little subgenre of drama.
Yeah.
It's also, for as heavy a story as it is,
it's still incredibly watchable. Like, I've seen it more than once, and the second time before I put it on, I was like, yeah, time to rewatch Spotlight, the movie where that is the whole center of the movie. So, like, it somehow offsets that, I think, by the performances and the screenplay. And it's tough because both of these are really great, I think, in totally different areas. I'm also going to lean Spotlight just because I think I got more personally invested in the story, whereas Roma, I really appreciate the craft, but personally it didn't resonate with me the way Spotlight did.
Okay, so as to not linger, and since my vote does not matter in this case, I'll just say Spotlight. You know, it's good. It's a really good watch. You know, it's a very watchable film, but Roma is great. Next matchup, we got The Social Network up against Crazy Stupid Love. Is this a clear?
I would say so.
Yeah. Crazy Stupid Love is one of the best comedies, like pure comedies of the 2010s, which is why we included it. But The Social Network is The Social Network.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
I hadn't seen Crazy Stupid Love, and I had to watch it for the tournament, and I loved it. I was really surprised how much I loved it. But The Social Network being an 8 seed is mind-boggling to me. Like, that should be way higher.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about Call Me By Your Name being a 9 seed, which I think easily clears Kingsman: The Secret Service.
I would agree.
I would also agree.
Okay.
This is an easy quarter.
Both really good movies, I would say.
I think,
and Kingsman, both really good.
Yeah, I agree. But just the thing is that, you know, they're worse than Call Me By Your Name and The Social Network by quite a bit.
Unfortunately.
You know what else I think is wildly better than its counterpart? Mad Max Fury Road and Wonder Woman. I think Mad Max clears Wonder Woman.
This is like this might be like the 3 easiest matchups back to back of the entire bracket.
Well, wait, Brendan, do you agree?
I also agree.
Okay. I just don't want you to...
Of course he agrees.
Well, just in case.
Would hope he agrees. Otherwise,
but now,
he's wrong.
Yeah. Now we have a harder one, though. Phantom Thread up against The Irishman. I'll start off with this.
All right.
Because I don't usually start off with things. I'm going to make it interesting and start. The Irishman is just a Scorsese epic. It is almost a swan song on his career a little bit, where he brings just some of the most iconic actors of his like time when he was younger and proceeds to de-age them and just help them all relive their stardom. Al Pacino, like, this is a movie that introduced me to really all three, De Niro, Pacino, and Pesci, and I loved it, and I love it for that. And despite the fact that I do think that Phantom Thread is a really good movie, it's a great PTA movie, I just think that The Irishman is a really great feat for Scorsese's career.
I also agree. I'm choosing The Irishman over this one. Phantom Thread is really, really good, a really great drama, but I think Irishman is a phenomenal film in Scorsese's filmography. The de-aging is really great. Like, it gets a little hard to use to just in the first couple scenes, but otherwise I would say it's just amazing. And De Niro, Pacino, and Pesci, they're just once again delivering fantastic performances. And I think it's just a great crime saga that's very different from his other stories that he's done in the crime genre, but I think he does it really well, and there's a lot of vulnerability in the characters, and it's a little more dour.
Yeah.
Guys, are we okay? Because we've now done 6 matchups and nobody has disagreed yet at all on anything.
Oh, were you not picking Phantom Thread?
I'm not. No, these are 2 movies that I haven't seen in many years. I've only seen them each once. And so I'm coming at it from maybe a bit of a disconnected perspective, but like Phantom Thread for PTA follows very much in line with a lot of his other movies from this decade, where instead of like these big maximalist ensemble pieces, it's a scaled back character study that takes its time, and it's just kind of centering around a few people. And he's also really great at that, but I think I prefer him when he's working on a larger scale. just because of how he handles those casts.
Fair.
And The Irishman is way too long. I saw it in a movie theater where there was no pausing. I didn't get up to go to the bathroom. It was long, and like Killers of the Flower Moon, I was used to the runtime, so I don't think that was as bad. The Irishman does feel long, and not every scene is necessary by a long shot. But I think the way that he kind of looks back, like you said, on his career with these specific actors and gets just very introspective about aging and what happens as a byproduct of that, I think is incredibly mature filmmaking. And again, like Killers, that is the trajectory he is on. And so it's kind of weird. I never would have thought to compare PTA and Scorsese in that way, but they kind of have a similar career trajectory. And I would just say that I think for me personally, The Irishman works better.
That's valid. Yeah. All right. Well, this is weird. Yeah, you're right.
When is someone gonna fight?
I mean, I think Knives Out clears Sorry to Bother You.
I agree.
Agreed.
Like it doesn't.
Oh my god.
It doesn't have horse people, but it's great.
Yeah. I think that this might be our first disagreement here.
I think you're right.
Ex Machina up against Winter Soldier. I think we're gonna have a bit of an argument here.
I hope so. This is a good one.
Yeah. All right, Ethan. I know that you're passionate about Ex Machina,
Yeah.
as you've talked about it like it's a behemoth on this list. And yeah, I want to hear your take on why, because I don't agree with that.
Okay. I don't know if it's a behemoth on this quarter. Like there are 10 movies here that I have at 5 stars, and Ex Machina isn't one of them. But it is probably more than anything else that I don't have at 5. One that I not only come back to in terms of rewatching it, but that I think about without watching it, like just separate from the film, video essays, other like movies starring the same people or from the same director. I just think about it a lot. And I think what it has to say about artificial intelligence, the way that people can be so easily susceptible to manipulation if put under the right circumstances, I think is incredible. The screenplay is like one of the best original screenplays of the decade. Alex Garland's direction I don't think has ever been better. I think the cast, even though it's only a few people, everyone is great. The production design of like the house, it's one of my favorite like settings of any movie here. And as much as The Winter Soldier is great, and I think is one of the strongest MCU entries, I think the Russos bring a lot of great gritty character to Captain America, and it is a very straightforward like spy political thriller, and it's so fun to watch. It doesn't have the dance scene. It doesn't have Donald Gleason asking Oscar Isaac why he tore up her picture and him saying, "I'm going to tear up the dance floor," and then he bursts out into dance for 30 seconds. That is so perfect. That is the greatest scene ever. I love it. I'm picking Ex Machina.
That's valid. I contradict. I think Winter Soldier is just awesome. And it is by far, I think, the Russo brothers just really in their bag in terms of action and suspense, and really showing how good I think a superhero movie can be, just in terms of like, you know, crossing between like superhero movie and like other popular genres. I feel like this was one of the first ones to really do that and not just be a superhero movie. And I love it. You know, I just think the action is really solid. I think the suspense is great. And I also just really want to see the Chris Evans versus Chris Evans matchup in round 2.
That's true.
With Winter Soldier and Knives Out. I think Ex Machina is a great movie. You know, I have it very close with Winter Soldier in terms of like quality though. So then I lean back on what I've said before that I lean back on, which is kind of like iconicism and whatnot. And I just think that Winter Soldier is just a more iconic film. It's one that I remember better. It's one that I've kind of grown up with. So I pick Winter Soldier.
No.
So Brendan,
Yeah, Ex Machina is a really fantastic sci-fi
Starting
film.
with Ex Machina.
It does.
Shit.
It does have an excellent dance scene with Oscar Isaac, but it does not have a fantastic elevator fight with Captain America or a really emotional climax between Cap and Bucky, along with so many great car chases. So I'm gonna go with Captain America: Winter Soldier. I think it's top 3 MCU for me, and the Russo's best film that they've directed. They do a great job of bringing Captain America into the real world and kind of dealing more with his drama after continuing from the Avengers, and it balances Black Widow and Shield really well while still feeling like a Captain America story. And the Bucky twist is done really well. I saw it coming just because I knew from the comics that Bucky was Winter Soldier, but I still think they do a really good job of that connection. Yeah, Winter Soldier.
You guys.
Sorry, Ethan.
No.
Well, you know, in better news, we are halfway through round 1 in less than 20 minutes.
No way.
Impressive.
Usually it takes us like 45 minutes to get through like the whole first round.
I will say though, I think it's because like a lot of these rounds have had a very clear winner, which may make the next round very difficult, where it's like two very strong movies against each other.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
With that being said, we move on to number 2 in Inception versus 31 Argo. And hot take.
Oh,
I think Argo's better.
Die.
I think that Inception is one of Nolan's weakest films.
Get out of here.
Not a big fan of it, to be honest. And I think Argo is a great time. I think it is a really good Ben Affleck movie. I think he gives a great performance. I think he gives some really good direction. I think that it's just a really interesting plot that shows kind of the magic of film in a much more grounded and serious way that is kind of preaching to how great it can be, but from, you know, a war perspective. Yeah, and personally, I see Inception as, I think, by far the weakest 2 seed on the whole bracket.
Brendan, save this.
I have the exact opposite opinion. I think Inception might be Christopher Nolan's best film.
Wow. Okay.
Or very close. I think it's phenomenal in its world building, in the emotional story, between both Leonardo DiCaprio and his family, and also with Cillian Murphy too. I think it's excellently crafted. It's never too hard to follow or confusing. The sound mixing and the music never gets to a point where you can't hear the dialogue, which kind of happens in Nolan's later films, but they do a good job. It does a good job in this.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many great action scenes, a great supporting cast. Everybody gets something to do. Everybody gets a time to shine, I think. And I still really like Argo. I think it's still a really good movie, but I think it's no Inception.
That's fair.
I really enjoyed Argo. Again, a lot more than I thought I was going to. It's one of my favorite, like, because Oscar bait movies that love the movies is like, it's such a stereotype, and Argo falls into that. But the way that it utilizes that angle and the way that it takes that is so interesting. And I had a lot of fun watching it. But I agree with Brendan. I think Inception is like easily top 3 Nolan for me, is not the weakest 2 seed on here, and does a heist movie with like such inventive layered storytelling. The visuals are insane. Like the hallway fight where the whole like rotating set, like watching behind the scenes on that is so cool. And I just love a lot of the drama with DiCaprio's character. Like that was the one part that after first watch I wasn't fully invested in, but as I've come back to it, I've really appreciated that side of it and like his motivation for doing all of this. And I just think it blends what you want out of a huge action blockbuster and what you want out of original sci-fi better than a lot of other movies. So it is very clearly my pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very hot take of mine.
Also, I need to fight for all of the top 4 seeds so that I can get them all to the Sweet 16, as is my duty after I did it last time.
Except you're not going to end up doing that.
Yeah, I know. This isn't the one.
Yeah, this is definitely not the one. There are too many good lower seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, next matchup, 15 Good Time versus 18 The Dark Knight Rises. Who would like to start?
Oh, do you guys not think Good Time clears The Dark Knight Rises?
I mean, I do. I just didn't know if you guys did.
I don't think it clears, but if you guys both, then oh well. I think that The Dark Knight Rises, I prefer it, to be honest. But if you guys think it clears, then we don't need to waste our time.
Let's hear your take, even if you've lost already.
I love a lot of the moments in this film. I love the kind of Bruce Wayne being sent into that cave and having to claw his way out of it. I love seeing Gotham just in complete anarchy and essentially like being ruled by Bane, and with Two-Face as a judge, or not Two-Face, sorry, Scarecrow as a judge.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of cool. I love just moments like the stadium scene. Like that moment was great. I love when like Bane breaks his back. I like that this film takes Batman and grounds him and puts him in a very weak position, and it's essentially a redemption story for him after the fallout of The Dark Knight, where Harvey Dent dies and after he becomes Two-Face, and just seeing the aftermath to Bruce, I found to be really great. I mean, it's a bloated film, don't get me wrong. Like, it's very bloated. It is a very weak Christopher Nolan movie, but I guess I'm just not the biggest fan of Good Time. It's not that I don't like Good Time, but I just don't particularly love it. While Dark Knight Rises was a fun movie for me to connect with my dad with. So there you go.
It's a valid take.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
The Lighthouse versus Hidden Figures. Does the Lighthouse clear?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
This is such a fast round.
It is.
I'm put off by it.
Ethan, we both watched The Shape of Water yesterday, but I think Scott Pilgrim clears it.
I agree. I think watching The Shape of Water for the first time was a very fun experience, because before we went through what else was nominated for Best Picture that year, one of the best picture lineups ever, I think. Yeah. But it was very clear to see like how The Shape of Water beat all of them. I think again it comes back to the Academy loves movies, and I think The Shape of Water with like the whole 60s aesthetic I think is really cool, and it pays tribute to a lot of those older films in a way that resonates even with modern Academy viewers.
Yeah.
But like Scott Pilgrim on a technical level completely trounces it. I think it's one of the best comedic ensembles ever put together. Mm-hmm. And so we'll get into it more, I guess, next round when it doesn't clear. But
exactly.
Yeah, totally.
But that sums it up pretty well. And I mean, The Shape of Water is good. I don't even know if I'd say good. I'd say it's solid.
I'd say it's good, not great.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. It's not better than Scott Pilgrim, but I would still say it's really good.
Fair enough. I have a hot take on this one. I have a feeling you guys would say that Little Women clears Ready Player One, correct?
Totally, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think it... I think that Ready Player One loses. I think Little Women is better. I don't think it clears.
It clears. I'm sorry.
In your opinion, that's fair.
As someone who is a huge fan of the Ready Player One book, and like Spielberg is Spielberg, like it's not even close.
I just think of the race cars.
The race cars are cool.
They were so cool.
They're fine. I like the DeLorean.
So cool. The DeLorean was awesome. I don't know. This was a birthday movie for me, and I was really excited for it. And in anticipation, I read the whole book.
Is Brendan going to be on the
one?
I also read the whole book. Is Brendan going to
be on the right side of the vote every time? I think potentially.
Maybe.
Hasn't lost yet.
No. I guess we'll find out. 12 Years a Slave clears The Hunger Games, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. Here we go. I think this is a matchup. Her versus The Incredibles 2.
This is not a matchup to me.
What do you think?
I think Her clears. I love Incredibles 2. Like The Incredibles is one of my favorite animated movies of all time, and I like Incredibles 2 a lot more than other people. It has so many issues.
As
I don't
somebody
know.
who has seen both of these films in the past month, I believe The Incredibles 2 beats her. I just didn't really connect with her too much. I found the reveal and all of that to just be really predictable and just I don't know. I didn't really sympathize with Joaquin's character here as much as I think I should have. And
Hmm.
that sucked because I wish I did. But I just kind of watched the movie and kept seeing him as an incel who I couldn't really sympathize with too much. And that's
I
my
disagree
take.
because I think like on paper his character is totally an incel, but the way that he performs it, I think makes him much more vulnerable. Granted, I haven't seen it in a very long time. Like it out of all the movies I have at 5 stars that I've only watched once, I think I watched it the longest ago, and like I do want to watch it again because I think I would be able to better talk about it if I had. But like I don't know, he brings so much. This run of performances he had like early in the 2010s, I think is incredible.
That's fair. For me, I look at it and I see like his performance. He's trying to be like sympathetic and trying to make you care about him, but then the actions of his characters, in my opinion, made it really hard for me to like truly care when it he just he had all these people really trying to form a relationship with him, and it just the way that he kind of reciprocated that I wasn't really a fan of. And I know that it's because of what was going on with him and his wife and that kind of being his trauma in the film. I don't know. I didn't
All
connect
right,
with it as much. I didn't
Brendan.
sympathize with it too much. I'm guessing
I
Brendan's picking her.
I recently watched her, and yeah, I totally
Yeah.
connected with it. I think
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix is really great with this. Maybe not the most likable character. I think he's decently sympathizable, and I think Joaquin Phoenix gives a lot of depth to his performance. I think Scarlett Johansson is really good with just a vocal performance here. I think this story was a bit ahead of its time dealing with this kind of subject matter, and I think it kind of holds up well. And I thought this was a really compelling story, and under small role from Chris Pratt, which I didn't expect, but
Yeah,
he's
that was
decent
fun.
in this too. And Incredibles 2 is good, but it's like nowhere near as good as the first one.
All right. Final matchup. And I think it's a clear. The
I
favorite.
want to
Clears
I want to talk
Booksmart.
about this one. I want to talk about this one a lot.
Why?
I'm going the same direction as you guys. Don't worry.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but like, why do you want to talk about it?
I want to talk about it because Booksmart is a very special film to me. And
Oh, okay.
24 hours ago, I would have picked it, but then we watched The Favorite. And I got very frustrated as soon as I realized that, like, we were both going to be on campus and you still hadn't watched The Favorite for this because I knew I was going to want to watch it with you and that
Mm-hmm.
it would probably then beat Booksmart. And I don't want Booksmart to get cleared 3-0. I think, like I said about Scott Pilgrim, I think cast wise, and it's like the people in Booksmart are not nearly as big names as the people in Scott Pilgrim, but I think the way that they just play off each other as a bunch of high schoolers, I love it. I love the group dynamic of the entire cast. They clearly had so much fun making this.
Yeah.
And I think the bond between Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein is so much fun. I love their chemistry. They have like one of the best comedic duos I think of the decade. And while the movie itself is kind of just like super bad 2.0 to the point where like Beanie Feldstein and Jonah Hill are literally siblings, and it's just her doing that. It really resonates with me. I watched it probably at a good point, and it's a movie that more than a lot of other movies on this bracket, I just come back to for no particular reason. I just want to watch a good movie and like get out of my life for an hour and a half. I just throw this on. There's so many bits that I love. The soundtrack is incredible. There's like Perfume Genius, Death Grips, LCD Sound System. It's one of my favorite soundtracks of the decade. And all of that being said, it is really frustrating because we watched The Favorite yesterday, and immediately I was just like, holy crap, wait, I hadn't seen this in 4 years. I totally forgot how good it was. it's like a new favorite, and no pun intended. And so I have to pick it, but I did just want to shout out Booksmart because it is one of my favorites.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to say that Booksmart's bad, but the favorite, we'll get into it. We'll get into it next round. Okay. So we're in round 2 very quickly, but I think round 2 is probably going to take a while because these matchups are huge.
Yes.
Interstellar versus Spotlight. Is this a clear?
I don't think it's a clear, but I think it's probably a 3-0, and it's not particularly close with me.
Yeah, it's not really close with me either. Brendan?
I'm not really sure on this one. I really love both of these films. What were you guys thinking?
Oh, we were thinking Interstellar clears.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
You're voting for it too?
Like, I'm on the same level of both of these movies. I think they're both fantastic equally.
That's fair.
Okay.
So
should we call it 3-0 just so Brendan still hasn't been on the wrong side of a vote the entire episode?
Sure. Yeah.
You're okay with that?
Let's keep the streak going.
Yeah, let's keep this.
Yeah.
Let's see if that changes though with this
insane. This is a good one.
Insane matchup that hurts my brain to look at.
Yeah.
The Social Network versus Call Me by Your Name.
Do you want to go first?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Brendan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going Social Network for this one. Just a phenomenal movie. David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin make for a great duo with their writing and direction. Such a fantastic story about Facebook that still holds up, even if Facebook is not the most popular thing today. It still really holds up, and you don't have to know everything about that time culturally to understand the story. And Jesse Eisenberg, Andrew Garfield, Justin Timberlake are all excellent in this. There's so many great editing choices and storytelling choices throughout. And Call Me by Name is really beautiful, a really beautiful coming-of-age movie. So many just kind of intimate moments, but I think Social Network is better.
I'm going the opposite way. I think Call Me by Your Name is better, which will make Ethan tiebreak, which is what he was expecting to do.
I never tiebreak. This is exciting.
And yeah, I think Luca is a fantastic director here and really gets to show off those chops. The cinematography is gorgeous. Something that I just love with Luca is that he just loves beautiful locations in Europe for his films. And this is one of those. It's gorgeous. Every shot, every location, it's just off the charts. Timothée Chalamet is awesome. Armie Hammer, yeah, like the cannibal Armie Hammer. He's actually in both of these movies. We should probably acknowledge that. So yeah, Armie Hammer gets his start in The Social Network, and I guess you could say Call Me by Your Name is kind of his last big movie. Maybe. I mean, I guess you could really stretch it to like Death on the Nile if you want to. But yeah, I would say it's this, and I'd say it's a really solid swan song before his cannibalism got exposed. You could say. And yeah, they're great. Their chemistry is awesome. And just the connection that these two have in the many ways that you can look at it, where you could see it as Armie Hammer just completely grooming Chalamet, but also it was a lot more of Chalamet coming on to Armie Hammer, and it was just a really odd relationship that I think could be very questionable to some people because, yeah, Chalamet's character is a 17-year-old, but also his parents were okay with it. It's just a very odd situation, one that's very questionable, but there is beauty in the questionable, in my opinion. I'm going with Call Me by Your Name and am ready for Ethan to make me sad.
This is an evil matchup because one of these is such a great movie, but the other one's The Social Network. So like it's not even, for me, it's not close. It is The Social Network, but I love Call Me by Your Name so much. I agree. The way that like the questionable romance is portrayed, I think is perfect. Whereas something like Licorice Pizza doesn't work for me because I think it tries to cut out how complicated the dynamic is in
Yeah.
service of just like a more straightforward romance. I think here it paints a more conflicted picture
Hmm.
where it's also helpful it doesn't work out by the end. I think if it
Yes,
had,
I agree.
that's been a different story. No, I think I really love how that's portrayed. We've talked about the bisexual awakening movies. This is one for me, and so like it's so hard to go against it. It's beautiful. I think after my Challengers obsession earlier this year, like Guadagnino has very quickly jumped up my list of favorite directors, and this is probably my second favorite of his by a good margin. But it's The Social Network. It's literally The Social Network.
I
I
know
can't I can't
it was
not.
so weird to pick against The Social Network,
I know it
and I think,
hurts.
yeah, I'm not even that upset because it's The Social Network.
Right.
Yeah, like it was so close for me.
Yeah,
Does Fury Road clear The Irishman?
I'd say so.
I would say so.
Okay, and Knives Out, I think clears Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Really? Really,
Yeah.
for both of you. That surprises me. I don't know.
It's Knives Out.
It is Knives Out. Thank
Yeah,
you
not
for
yeah.
that.
Knives Out's a personal favorite of mine.
Yeah.
This is an insane like next round that we're setting up right now.
Yeah.
Interstellar, Social Network, Fury Road, Knives Out.
All movies that have made it to the next round are in the top 8 and like had their place reserved by the seeding. We're not going against it at all. I'm so happy all these great movies get to make it further.
All right,
Ugh.
Inception. I think Inception clears Good Time, even though
I
I'm
think
low on
Inception clears Good Time, but I do want to talk about Good Time because we didn't really talk about it last round.
Okay.
Yeah, Good Time. I go back and forth between this and Uncut Gems for favorite Safdie Brothers movie. I think it is Uncut Gems like right now, but they've switched back and forth a few times. Good Time is like very after hoursy, and then it's kind of for the most part sticking in real time for a lot of it, and you're just like following Robert Pattinson, who is amazing. Just everything that can go wrong goes wrong for his character, and he has so much charisma, and it's so fun to watch him like try and figure out what the hell to do to get out of the situation he's been put in. A lot like so many of the colors pop like crazy. It's a really like visually appealing movie, and it's a good time. I'm gonna make that joke. It's just so fun to watch and like get involved in. But Inception's Inception.
Yeah, I really love Good Time, and I think I like it a little more than Uncut Gems. It's not just a good time; it's an extremely intense time. It's really exhilarating throughout, and Robert Pattinson is really good in here. But I will also go with Inception.
The Lighthouse for Scott Pilgrim.
I hate this.
I don't have much of a problem with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brendan, how are you feeling about this one?
I think I go Scott Pilgrim for this one,
Mm-hmm.
just for preference, just because I really love Edgar Wright's as a director, and I think this is another great addition.
Yeah.
And I just love the storytelling, and I love that there's just it's creativity from beginning to end. There's so many great visuals, so many great directing, editing choices. The supporting cast gets so many great moments, so many memorable characters, so many iconic lines, great soundtrack. And I really love The Lighthouse. I think it's a phenomenal film, but I also think Scott Pilgrim is, and I prefer that.
Fair enough. All right, Ethan.
Yeah. I mean, we already know where I'm going on this, but
I know where you're going on this too.
It kills me. Scott Pilgrim is like one of the most fun movies I think I've ever seen. It's endlessly quotable. Like I said, the cast is crazy good. Everyone kills it, despite even if they only have like one line. The guy who plays Como, who knows everyone, so funny. He's in like 2 scenes for maybe a minute total of screen time. He's so funny. I love him. And just the whole Seven Evil X's thing, the way that I think this more than any other movie except maybe the Spider-Verse movies does a comic in film form, I think is so cool.
Yeah, it is.
And like Lucas Lee, Matthew Patel, the Katayanagi twins, this sucks. I don't want to vote against Scott Pilgrim, but I have to because like The Lighthouse to me is like top 2 probably horror movies of all time. I think Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson both go completely off the rails. It is shot so beautifully. The sound design is impeccable. Robert Eggers is like The Witch was fantastic in its own right, but I think with that and then The Lighthouse immediately established himself as just one of the best directors of this decade. And again, it pains me because I love them both so much. They're both huge personal favorites. But I'm going The Lighthouse, and it's fairly decisive, unfortunately. Logan, break my heart.
Yeah, I'm gonna break your heart. I'm going with Scott Pilgrim here.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
could tell.
it's just so good. It's hilarious. It does do the thing where it makes a comic so accurately in live action, which I think is just really impressive. I think all the characters are fun. The ensemble is insane. Love the Seven Evil X's plot line. I mean, it just gets better and better and better, which is awesome. And yeah, I love it. I could watch that movie again and again and again.
Yeah, I'm not even mad about this. I
I'm
love
glad.
Scott Pilgrim too much to be mad.
But now we got the Battle of the Period Pieces.
Yes.
I'll kick it off.
All right.
I'm going to go with 12 Years a Slave over Little Women. I forgot to even say what the matchup
Yeah.
was. So that was me really making sure to say it. So yeah, you got number 3, Little Women against 14, 12 Years a Slave. 12 Years a Slave is just a devastating movie. It's really hard to watch, but it is beautiful in just its cinematography, the way that it looks. And I think the connections formed by the slaves, despite their circumstances, the care that they are able to have for each other in the way that they kind of congregate together as they all just really suffer. Like, this film shows that, and it's a beautiful thing. Not what's happening to the slaves, but the way that they do connect with one another. And I think it's a film that I'm gonna remember forever, like, in terms of like my experience watching it. It just really moved me. It hurt to watch a lot, but it's a film that I would go back to. It's the kind of film where I'm so glad it exists, because like, this is a film that should be shown in high school. Like, it should be required viewing, as like, you have read about this stuff for years, you should see it.
Yeah.
Because it's the experience of actually seeing it is just so jarring and horrific. And it's a horror movie, really. And yeah, that's
Brandon.
I'm also going with 12 Years a Slave. I do really like Little Women. I think it's a really great drama that balances out a great ensemble cast. But like a lot of what Logan said, 12 Years a Slave is a phenomenal film. A very brutal watch from start to finish. This is really brutal and intense to see what happens to these characters, but the direction and the acting is masterful. And it just, I think this is a really important film. I haven't seen it in such a long time, but I always remember, like, I still haven't forgotten about every single scene. Every time it was just gut wrenching. And 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah. What I say doesn't matter. I'm also going to go with 12 Years a Slave, which is a choice that I find fascinating, because for how much I love Lady Bird and Barbie and have rewatched them both more than once, I have not come back to Little Women since I saw it in theaters in 2019.
Me too.
And so I feel like I might make a different choice if I were to rewatch it, given how strongly I have resonated with, I think, especially Lady Bird and like the last year or two. But 12 Years a Slave was one of the most notable movies on this bracket that I hadn't seen prior to us making it.
I think it was the most notable movie.
Probably
I think that was the one that we really highlighted for you to go and see.
Right. And I'm not going to say I loved watching it, but it was so, like, I immediately within like 10 minutes understood the hype.
Yeah.
And I think so many incredible performances. Basically, anyone that is in this is giving a top tier performance. And the ending, when it's like him finally getting back and seeing his family for the first time in over a decade,
Oh my God.
that made me
Yeah.
sob like a baby, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was so like happy, but also totally devastating at the same time. And very rarely do both of those work so well together, but they do. And it's just like you guys said, it's so hard to watch, but I think should totally be watched by everybody. And like, I love Little Women, but given that I haven't gone back to it in almost 5 years, I don't think I can really pick it. So,
That's fair.
yeah.
All right. Well, wow. I did not think that would sweep, but
Yeah.
All right. So, final matchup of this loaded second round. Her up against the favorite. I'd love to kick it off and make my case for the favorite clearing her. I
Oh,
don't think you guys would agree, but I believe that, and I'm going to say it. The favorite, which I watched yesterday with Ethan, is one of the funniest movies I have ever seen. Just flat out. It hit so hard. I didn't understand the hype behind Yorgos after like watching Poor Things and a little bit of The Lobster years and years and years ago, but now I get it because this is a raunchy, political, queer sex thriller that I loved. This was just so good from beginning to end. The cinematography, it is some of the best cinematography in this quarter of the bracket, maybe even the best cinematography in this quarter. And that is really saying something with some of these films like The Lighthouse and Mad Max and all that. But I think that that's the case. I think the way that the camera moves in this movie was so fascinating and something that I will definitely go back to time and time again with how it just it pushes into people but quickly will push out and just it goes everywhere and it really it moves like the Queen's wheelchair a
yeah.
little bit and I loved it. I mean,
I wonder if that was intentional.
maybe like the camera's almost like the eyes of the Queen or
Yeah.
something, and it's hilarious. I mean, Emma Stone is such a standout, but really Olivia Colman is just the standout here. I've seen movies where Olivia Colman has been the lead before, but none where I was like, oh, I get why some people think she's one of the greatest living actors right now. Now I get it. Similar to how I get it with Yorgos. She gave just such a performance where at first it felt like she was this weak, spoiled woman, but as the film's plot unravels, you learn more and more about her character, about the tragedy, but you also see that she is cunning and does use her power to a degree that is smart at times. She can be really smart. And it just hurt to watch because it was so inconsistent. And she plays it to a T, in my opinion.
I'm going to go with her for this one. I have a feeling you're both going with the favorite, which is totally fine. It's more of just preference. I found her much more compelling than the favorite. The favorite, I do agree with a lot of what you said. It's a fantastic movie that kind of the characters unravel as you go. And Olivia Colman, Rachel Weisz, and Emma Stone are just phenomenal in this. But I found the story and the themes just more compelling in her.
Fair enough. All right.
Shall I break the tie?
You shall.
Her wins.
No. Oh, no.
If we'd held this yesterday.
Oh.
Just really wanted to do that too. Sorry.
I got so sad because we had so much fun
I know.
watching this movie.
It's like some of the most fun though that I've had watching a movie in a while.
Me too.
And rewatches are special, and the favorite, I'd been waiting, just sitting on that rewatch for 4 years, and it totally paid off. Like as someone who like Succession is one of my favorite shows of all time. I think it's very similar in the way that it kind of deals with a power struggle between
Yeah.
what should be two family members, loved ones, but they go at each other's throats for the approval of really who is in charge of everything. I think Olivia Colman, like you said, really shows those layers as the movie goes on, where she's more of a caricature at the beginning, but like once you peel back those layers, and really that one fantastic scene with Emma Stone and all the rabbits, like where she fully explains all of that tragedy, I think it's amazing. And then Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz are both insane, both very different performances, but their characters ultimately want the same thing and are similar in that way. And just watching them going back and forth, trying to like kind of one up each other to be the favorite, I think is so good. Obviously, like you said, cinematography is some of the best of the decade. I think the production design, the costume design, everything. Nicholas Hoult and his silly little wig and the makeup is so funny. He's such an asshole. I love him. And yeah, just like bar for bar, every aspect of this movie is incredible. Like the screenplay, especially. I was not going to be able to watch it unless you had made those subtitles larger. Thank you. Like
Yeah.
the dialogue is so good.
It is.
And it sucks because I love her. And if I had seen it more recently, maybe this would have been a tougher decision for me. Like I said, Joaquin Phoenix's performance I think is spectacular. I think it looks beautiful. Spike Jonze's direction is insane, and it's some of my favorite like light sci-fi of the decade, where it isn't going crazy with its concepts. It's kind of taking a real world setting and putting it just a little bit in the future so that it can have more tools at its disposal to tell its story. And the way it integrates technology is so cool. But I think the favorite just wins out. Maybe it's the recency bias, but I'm definitely gonna go with it.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Brendan's first loss.
That's wild.
Yeah, I unfortunately
That's
didn't get to rewatch The Favorite. That was one of that and Roma were the only movies I didn't get to rewatch. But I think maybe if I did, I would have given over her, because her was a recency bias. That was one where
Okay.
I gave it over The Favorite.
All right. Shall we get to this incredibly stacked next four matches?
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Wow.
is gonna kill me.
Yeah, this is gonna be a very painful final four matches. Let's kick it off with Interstellar and The Social Network. Before, I was telling Ethan that I think Interstellar is going to be the first one seed to not make it to the Sweet 16. And that was because I was anticipating this matchup with The Social Network, a movie that I think deserves to be a one seed or two seed in its own right. With that being said, I am going to pick Interstellar.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was inwardly debating this for the past like 20 minutes on what I was going to pick. I'm going with Interstellar. It has been a favorite of mine for a very long time. It like I'm just very moved by this film. It is, I think, my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. While I don't think The Social Network is my favorite David Fincher movie. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's my favorite David Fincher movie on this bracket.
Really?
Yeah, I do prefer Gone Girl, which
All
is
right.
in the Sweet 16. So
Yeah.
I'll take it. But yeah, so I think Interstellar is just great. I think the space sequences are gorgeous and stunning and just an absolute spectacle. And that's really what this film is. But also, you got to take into account Matt Damon. Matt Damon has what I think is just a fantastic cameo.
Yeah.
That ends up just making this movie so much more thrilling, because it felt a lot like just a space thriller with yes, some people arguments, but nothing that was that big. But Matt Damon introduces a whole new layer of just conflict especially because like it was a decision between that planet or the other planet who Anne Hathaway's character really wanted to go to, and McConaughey was like, no, we're gonna go to Matt Damon's planet. And yeah, the fallout of that was wild, especially when Anne Hathaway had like the personal relationship with the astronaut on the planet that she wanted to go to. And yeah, I mean, just Interstellar is great.
I'm gonna go next.
Okay, because you
Interst-
want to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Interstellar is amazing, but contrary to you, Interstellar is not my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. Social Network is my favorite David Fincher movie.
Ooh.
I would make the case that The Social Network might be the best movie of the decade just in terms of how it is put together. It is some of the greatest editing of all time, the way it jumps between what's going on at college and then in California with both of like the court suit hearing stuff. Like Andrew Garfield is giving possibly one of the best supporting performances of the decade.
Yeah.
You just because him and Jesse Eisenberg have really great chemistry. And so when they are friends, they are very good close friends, and you see that. But slowly as it goes, you begin to realize how hurt he has been. And it first comes up even in the like jumping back to their college days, where like there are small little interjections that Zuckerberg makes, and Eduardo like totally disagrees with him, but doesn't fight it. But you can tell he's feeling kind of pushed to the side, undervalued a little bit. And that just keeps ramping up as the stakes get higher with Facebook. And I don't know. I have a tough time talking about it because I do think it is just so airtight. It is so quotable.
Yes,
The Winklevi, come on. Like every scene is perfect. The rhythm of the Sorkin dialogue is immaculate. I think the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is my favorite film score of all time, handily. And so I love Interstellar immensely. I think the way that it employs time dilation, a very high concept sci-fi idea for palpable human drama. The scene when Matthew McConaughey is watching the videos of his children, except now they're full-grown adults, and he just breaks down in tears. Like, yes, that is one of the scenes of the decade that has been like memed for how emotional it is. It's so emotional, and the visual effects are spectacular.
Yeah.
I think as cheesy as it is, the whole message about love conquering all, it is somehow done in a way that totally works. I buy every second of it. And so there's so much about Interstellar that I love. But The Social Network, I think, is just the absolute like embodiment of 2010's film perfection. So I've got to pick it. Brendan, please.
I disagree with the fact that this is a painful round. This really only one of these matchups is kind of painful for me.
Really?
With the rest, it's kind of an easy decision for me to choose which one. And for this, it's easy for me to choose The Social Network. I think it's Fincher's best film.
We did it!
Very, like a lot of what Ethan said, just very airtight. The way it's able to go back and forth in time, but it's never confusing at all. Whereas Interstellar, which is a movie I love, I think I just rewatched it yesterday. It's fantastic, but it's not I don't think it's one of Nolan's best. And I think unlike Inception, it gets just a little confusing at times, or just a little hard to follow. The sound mixing the music, a little too loud to hear some of the dialogue. It's not as bad as in Tenet, but I still think it's a little convoluted. Maybe mostly during the third act, but it's still great. Like the stuff with Matthew McConaughey and his daughter, like those scenes are phenomenal. Like the scene watching his video, like 20 out of 10. That is a amazing, beautiful scene. And there are so many beautiful visual effects throughout, but I just think it's not one of Nolan's strongest. It's still really great, but I don't think it's as good as Oppenheimer or Inception or The Dark Knight. Whereas Social Network, I think, is just as good as something like Seven or Fight Club.
Fair.
A one seed has been eliminated.
Yeah.
This has never happened.
No.
I think it's the weakest of the one seeds. I'm surprised that Interstellar is.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah. I do agree. All right. Brendan, I'm guessing that this is the painful matchup for you. Am I correct?
Yes, this is the
Yes.
painful mashup.
All right, Mad Max Fury Road up against Knives Out. Who would like to kick off with
I can
this?
start.
Okay,
I'm
fight through
going.
the pain.
Yeah, it is a really painful because I love both of these movies, and Mad Max Fury Road is probably better in a lot of filmmaking aspects, but I'm going with Knives Out just the slightest, just because it's such a personal favorite of mine. I love these characters so much, and I think Rian Johnson's writing and directing is really great here. It's such a thrilling murder mystery, and I still remember that theater experience, being surprised and constantly guessing where it's going to go next. And Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, iconic character for me. I love all the supporting characters. They all get funny moments, and they kind of throw a bunch of curves at you where it's a little hard to get who's the murderer until the very end. And yeah, it's painful just because Mad Max Fury Road is phenomenal. Maybe the best action movie, definitely the best action movie of this decade, maybe ever. So many fantastic editing and directing choices throughout. This is one of the most beautiful looking movies of the decade. Yeah, I would totally understand if Fury Road beats Knives Out, but Knives Out is just such a favorite of mine. I have to choose it.
Fair enough. Ethan, you want
Logan,
to follow that up?
I think
Yep.
you should follow that up.
All right. Well, if I follow it up, then it makes your vote pointless.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going with Knives Out as well.
Okay.
I mean, what sucks is that this is such a good matchup, but I do feel like either winner is doomed.
Yeah.
You know, even if we picked Interstellar, I would have thought that either winner would be doomed in the following round. So it's like we're picking a movie to just send to a later death. And yeah, I'm picking Knives Out to face that later death. It's so much fun. I mean, both of these movies are a lot of fun. The reason why I'm not going with Fury Road is it just doesn't have a story. There's not really a compelling story aside from Furiosa becoming in Mad Max becoming more likable to one another. That's really the story here. It's all action. Some of the best action, I've ever seen. But sadly, we have a movie like Furiosa that came out this year that channels some of that action, but also shows that there could be some really good storytelling in this universe. And seeing Furiosa not necessarily dilutes Mad Max for me. I don't think Mad Max is worse because of Furiosa, but makes Mad Max feel a little less special because there is a movie that has one scene that channels that Mad Max action, but also tells a really solid, compelling story. And ironically, hot take, I prefer Furiosa to Mad Max. Fury Road.
That's weird. That's wrong.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm going on a random tangent with that.
Okay.
But yeah, so Knives Out is where I'm going. It has a really compelling story, a great murder mystery. It's hilarious. Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc is just fantastic. I mean, can't go wrong with Benoit Blanc. And I'm glad to see a Daniel Craig movie make the Sweet 16 after the disappointment of Skyfall, losing to Black Swan yesterday.
That was the right call. That was the right choice.
2 days ago.
That one.
Sure it was. Sure.
Yeah.
This whole half, I have been on the wrong side of everything.
Yeah.
Literally of everything.
Yeah. I want to talk about this one, even though what I say doesn't matter, because I haven't talked about either of these yet at all this episode.
Yeah.
They just kind of skated to the round of 32. And this is the first matchup, I think, in the round of 32 outside of Gone Girl versus Moonlight, where I legitimately didn't know upon first glance which I was going to pick. I am also going to say Knives Out. It's very, very close. And it's really surprising because and I've said it multiple times for multiple different movies, I am such a sucker for good action. And if there was any movie of the entire decade for me to say that about, it's Fury Road. And I'm not going to pick it because what you said, visually, from an audiovisual craftsmanship perspective, it is one of the most perfect movies on this bracket, but it is lacking in the story department very hard. And I do have it at 5 stars, but it has been kind of like teetering on the cusp of like, is it a 4.5? Is it a 5? Right now I'm leaning
Yeah.
5, but because I just don't connect to the story because there isn't much to connect to, I think it suffers there. And like Charlize Theron
Exactly.
is spectacular, like one of the most underrated performances of the decade.
Mm-hmm.
And like the blues during the night scenes, like the bright yellows during the day, it's so great just to look at. And like the doof warrior, the dude on the guitar with the fire jumping around, that's so awesome. No other movie on here can do that.
Yeah.
But I think just from a script perspective, I have to pick Knives Out because Ryan Johnson, we said this when we talked about The Last Jedi, loves subverting expectations. And for The Last Jedi, it was for Star Wars. Here, I think it's the whole murder mystery whodunit genre. And it's brilliant. We're like, yes, you want to know who did it, but within the first third, when we have that incredible 10-minute flashback where it's like Marta and Harlan in the study and everything that happens there, it's not about the who, it's about the how. And it
Mm-hmm.
becomes less of a mystery where you're wondering who did it and more of a thriller where you're trying to see how Marta can get out of it. And
Yeah.
still you have great reveals at the end that are completely unexpected. I love how convoluted it is. Doesn't really need to be, but it is, and it helps it so much. The ensemble is fantastic. Like so many people, I think Jamie Lee Curtis has really great stage presence here.
Yeah.
When we watched The Shape of Water yesterday, I was like, that was a really good Michael Shannon performance. This is a really good Michael Shannon performance. When he yells at Chris Evans, I don't give one iota of shit, which was improv. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the screenplay. I've watched this 5 times. There are so many small details that I pick up on each time. Nobody is consistent with what country Marta is from. They all say different countries in South America. The flashback when they're at the birthday party and they're like serving Harlan the cake, whoever is telling it is the one that is framed right next to him
Yeah.
because
Yep.
they all think that like they're the closest. There are just so many things like that. The baseball that Don Johnson picks up just for no reason and throws out the window by the end of the movie makes its way back because Jamie Lee Curtis's character puts it back where it was supposed to be and finds the evidence that he was cheating on her. There are so many moving parts to this script. Chris Evans is so fun here
Mm-hmm.
because like we've said multiple times whenever an actor plays against type, it's fun. And he, more than maybe any other actor in the 2010s, was bogged down with like the whole Captain America persona to where it was very hard to see him as anything but that. And here he's an asshole. You
Yeah.
hate him so much, but he's so fun to watch and root against.
Yes.
And I love it and I can pick it apart. And that's the thing is I love Fury Road 2, but it's more just the thrill of it rather than anything I can go deeper into.
It's a good way to put it.
It's tough, but I
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah. And that's why I made the Furiosa comparison, because that's a movie that you can actually at least go into a little bit. And I guess I wish that he somehow combined the two to make
Yeah,
something with a bit more story, because it does make me sad, because I feel like Mad Max, as fantastic, like as incredible as Fury Road is in terms of its action, because it lacks in story, it's just it really suffers against a movie like Knives Out that is so rich in story.
right.
Yeah. All right. Inception versus Scott Pilgrim. I'm going to go first because this is the only non-hard one for me. I'm going with Scott Pilgrim.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I think I've kind of explained myself for why I'd pick Scott Pilgrim, so I don't want to dive into it too much more, because Ethan really explained Scott Pilgrim perfectly, like however many minutes ago. It's
Yeah.
just, it's hilarious, and Edgar Wright's direction is top notch, and it's just, it's so watchable. It's
Yeah.
just, it's such a watchable movie. It's like what you were saying with Booksmart. I kind of feel this way about Scott Pilgrim, where I feel like I could turn it on anytime and just
Yeah.
watch it, and kind of watch it with anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going with that.
I'm gonna go Inception, and I didn't know if I was going to. In terms of how good I think it is, Inception definitely does win out for me. In terms of which one I like more, have more fun with, it was really tough. I
Yeah.
do still think I slightly lean Inception, so that's why I'm picking it. And I hate how much I have voted against Scott Pilgrim because it is one of my favorite movies of this quarter. Like the vegan police. Come
Oh my
on.
god, yeah. Just the whole
The,
vegan, like the
the
superpowers
epic
of being
base
vegan.
battle that is then immediately followed by the vegan police, which makes no sense. I didn't even talk about Kieran Culkin. Kieran Culkin is so funny in this.
Mm-hmm.
I love just the scene when Knives is at the door and is asking Wallace if Scott's home, and then Wallace is like, "Nope, he just left." And then Scott jumps out the window,
Mm-hmm.
but then
Yeah.
reaches back in to take the coat.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Talking about this, are you sure you still want to pick Inception?
I do. I do still want to pick Inception. I know it's tough. Scott Pilgrim is some of my favorite comedy and movies ever. Inception, though, it was the movie that made me love movies. Like there was a good 2 months, like end of 2018, when I was really getting into film, and there were a lot of movies that really resonated with me that I hadn't seen before. Like The Dark Knight was one of them. Whiplash was one of them. There were a lot. But I think Inception was the one that was like, holy crap, wait, you can do this? Like you are allowed to structure a movie this way. And it's maybe, I think, especially with Oppenheimer, which from a directorial achievement level, I do think is Nolan's best, to where I don't put Inception on a pedestal as much as I did. But like the way that each level of the dream is like time moving at a different rate, it's so cool. Again, like the settings for each level are fabulous. I love how the heist doesn't get going till halfway through the movie. That might be a problem for some people, where it's like it's too much exposition and the action is great and the stuff in the dreams is great and you maybe want more of that. I think the first half is incredible. The first 15 minutes when they're in Saito's mind, and like the water rushing into that room, that's fantastic. The chase scene in Mombasa is awesome. And I love how much they over explain it, because it's just the dream heist. It's such a cool concept. I just want to learn more
It
about it.
is.
And so the way that like they walk, like when they're just walking through different dream worlds, talking about how it works and like kind of the rules of extraction or inception, it's like it messes with your head, but in a fun way, where it's not confusing. You're just thinking, ooh, cool.
Yeah.
And I just, it's for years now, it has been an all-time favorite. And so as much as I love Scott Pilgrim, Inception like narrowly wins out for me here.
Fair. And the reason why I pick a movie like Scott Pilgrim over Inception is really kind of what you were talking about with the explaining in Inception. Scott Pilgrim doesn't explain anything. It just happens. And it doesn't matter. Like, veganism is a superpower. The vegan police exists. Chris Evans is the greatest skateboarder in the world until he is not, and is also like the biggest actor ever. Everybody has superpowers. Like, it's insane and unexplainable, and I love it. I think
by
it's
the way, I love
adorable.
how it's all of that, and then the craziest thing that happens is you find out Ramona dated a girl. It's like it's such a weird, silly joke, but I love it.
No, I agree. There's so many just weird, silly jokes in this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'll be
All right.
okay with either of these, I think.
I have a good feeling Brendan's easily picking Inception here.
Are ya?
Yep.
Yeah,
I love Scott Pilgrim. So many hilarious scenes, so many fun characters, so many creative visuals throughout. It's just such a burst of creativity, and just they crank it up to 11 throughout. But I think Inception is just a behemoth, just masterful in visualizing the dreams, explaining everything while not making it too convoluted and still having an emotional core from the story. Like the climax cuts back from multiple different dreams. They're like, at one point they're in a dream within a dream within a dream, but it's easy to follow. It's masterfully directed. It's so much fun to watch. Yeah, it's just such a creative concept about dream heist, but it's done so well.
Yeah. But before we get into the last one, I'm so happy we have a Nolan movie in the Sweet 16. I feel like the bracket wouldn't have been complete without that. Maybe that's just
It
me.
would have been very weird without a Nolan movie. I agree. I don't like Inception being that Nolan movie.
Well, so it's okay.
I think it's Nolan's best of the decade.
I would agree.
Decade.
Yeah.
And I disagree.
You're here?
Oh, well, okay. Final matchup. 12 Years a Slave versus The Favorite. Who wants to start?
I think I'm riding the high of yesterday. It's The Favorite, and it's not even close. As much as I love 12 Years a Slave and it being such a perfectly brutal watch, The Favorite, from a script perspective, it is so just genius by the way it just like you know very clearly from immediately like early on in the film what everyone's relationship with everyone else is. And so you just kind of get to sit back and have fun with it as they go at it. And that's what it is it's a power struggle, but it is fun. And that's why I make the Succession comparison, because that's what that show is to me. And I think The Favorite is so similar with how it does that. And while maybe you make the case that the performances are stronger in 12 Years a Slave, which I might agree with, I think from a script perspective, it's The Favorite. From a what I enjoy watching more, it's The Favorite. And yeah, it's just a more airtight movie to me.
That's fair. All right, what do you think, Brendan?
I'm going with 12 Years a Slave on this one. The Favorite is a really great movie. I think I may not be as high on it just because I haven't seen it in a long time. In fact, I watched this movie first time on a sick day. Maybe not the best movie to watch on a sick day, so maybe I should give it a rewatch. But I think 12 Years a Slave, just a phenomenal drama. So important to see, so hard to watch, but so masterfully directed, masterfully shot, just the acting all around. This must have been just a hard film to make, but such an important film for everyone to see.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. And I have a really hard time with this matchup. I have such a hard time. And maybe I'm riding on yesterday, but I gotta go with The Favorite. I have to. It is not a diss at 12 Years a Slave whatsoever. 12 Years a Slave is incredible. I would pick 12 Years a Slave over pretty much I think any other matchup it could have had in that like favorite spot. I think I would have picked 12 Years a Slave over anything. And that is why, like I would tell you, I thought 12 Years a Slave was easily getting to the Sweet 16 because I didn't think I would like The Favorite. But I ended up loving The Favorite. So, yeah, I mean, I adore this film. I think it's fantastic. I think it's hilarious. And I could go on and on about The Favorite if I really wanted to and find more things to say.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we can save that for the final episode of the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I give a fun stat which just makes me happy and I just want to share it because I need the validation?
What's your fun stat?
Other than the Lego movie making it, which is a complete load of bull, I was on the right side of the vote for every round of 32 matchup. I'm just gonna like wallow in that for the rest of the day and ride that high.
I hope you enjoy that because I was on the wrong side for most of that.
A lot of them. I'm sorry.
A lot of them. At least
I'm
like
really sorry.
Yeah, for more than both of you guys for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Ethan, you and I at least teamed up for like Portrait. We teamed up for The Favorite. But yeah, I kind of got teamed up against for a lot of things. At least Brendan and I got the Lego movie in there. I mean, at the end of the day, this is great. You know, Parasite's in there, Portrait's in there. You got a Chazelle movie in there. You got the Lego movie in there. You have like a Spider-Verse in there. 2 Fincher movies, a Wes Anderson movie, a Coogler movie, Denis, film. Actually, wait, 2 Chazelle movies. I said
Yeah.
1 Chazelle movie, 2 Chazelle movies, a Jordan Peele movie. Who directed Black Swan?
Darren
Aronofsky. Yes, we have an Aronofsky film in here. We got Knives Out. We got a Nolan. We got a Lanthimos. I mean, this is great.
Yeah, this looks like a really great lineup.
Yeah. And I mean, it is too bad that I think like this is the decade that we grew up in. So we did not get a chance to see nearly as many foreign films as I think any of us would have liked. Because I have a feeling this would be a very different Sweet 16 if we grew up in the 2000s and got to really be able to experience all of cinema for the whole decade. I think there'd probably be a lot more foreign films here. I mean, I would assume like if we ever did go back to this for the 2020s, which probably won't happen, but who knows, like maybe for fun, we'll be like, what, 30? No,
Probably.
not 30. No, we'll be 25 and
We'll be
Brendan will
old.
older than that. Yes, we'll be old. That's weird to think. But anywho, we could go back to it, and I'm sure that there'd be a lot more foreign films in there. But right now, we only got 2, and they happen to be up against each other in the Sweet 16, which does kind of suck, but it is what it is. Does anyone have any closing remarks?
Do I have to watch the Lego movie again before we record the last episode?
I think you do.
I would. I'm going to rewatch The Favorite and Portrait Lane on Fire because I haven't seen them in a long time.
Let's
and I was
decide
kinda
like
cold
right
on.
now what we're going to rewatch.
Like on air?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm rewatching Parasite and Portrait in the first quarter. What are you guys going to rewatch in the first quarter?
I might just do the Lego movie then.
Okay.
I'm going to rewatch Parasite and Portrait of Lane and Fire.
Okay. Valid. Second quarter, anybody rewatching anything here?
I might rewatch Gone Girl even though I've seen it fairly recently.
Me too. So maybe that we should do that
Yeah.
together.
Let's do
Figure out
that.
a way to do that.
I'm giving Creed a rewatch.
Okay.
That's fair. I've seen it pretty recently, so I don't feel like I need to rewatch it. Might also rewatch Budapest Hotel, but I've also seen that recently, so we'll see. That would probably be on the bottom of my, or towards the bottom of my list. Third quarter,
Probably Prisoners.
yeah. For me, I think I got 3 movies: Prisoners, Get Out, and Black Swan. I think I should
Okay.
rewatch all 3.
I've seen all these recently enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. And then final quarter.
I'm going
Is
to
there
rewatch
one for me?
I feel like I'm going to rewatch The Social Network and Inception. I've been so low on Inception. I feel like I should rewatch it just to like see if that's still where I stand.
Okay.
I'm going to be watching The Favorite and The Social Network.
Yeah. I think for a lot of these I don't need to rewatch them, but if one of you is watching them, I might just like watch it with you.
That's fair.
Just cuz.
I feel like just watching. Actually, I think DKA is doing a Social Network screening.
Yeah,
Really?
that's why I was thinking I'd just rewatch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I might
maybe
show
just-
up to that
Just
then.
I'll pull up
Yeah.
DKA Social Network screening. All right.
I will be yelling out every line, by the way, if I'm there.
Go for it.
So
Yeah,
apologies
piss
in
everyone
advance.
off.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for sticking through. If you've made it this far, we really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed Ethan and my conversation about Blink Twice before this. As we
Yes.
are recording, Ethan and I have not yet seen Blink Twice. We are seeing it in approximately 56 minutes. Yes. Well, probably more than that because that's not including previews.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Really appreciate it again. Take care.
Take care.